Hello there everybody, it is me Leo and welcome back to another video. So today we're back with another speed build and this time we're building a vintage 1950s/60s inspired home I decided to call the classic mid-century. So for those of you guys who don't know, mid-century modern was an artistic movement that happened during the middle of the 20th century. That's why it's called mid-century modern. And mainly it was a result of the need to build more real estate in suburban America. So American architects took modernist ideals from Europe, and that pretty much resulted in the creation of the mid-century modern style, which didn't only apply to architecture, it was also used heavily in interior design, furniture design, and also in art as well. That's why I say artistic movement as opposed to architectural movement, because those two are completely different things. But for this build, I decided to go for a very normal, I should say quintessential, mid-century modern Eichler home, pretty much similar or exactly similar to the works of American architect Joseph Eichler, who built modernist mid-century modern homes all throughout California. And you guys can see that in terms of the shape, it's definitely more of an Eichler home because I decided to go and use a gable roof as opposed to the more iconic butterfly roof or A-frame roof, which are more iconic when it comes to mid-century modern. And I did that mainly because I just wanted to make this house look as normal as possible. So I went for a really low-pitched gable roof instead. So I really liked how normal it looked, to be honest, and kind of basic. I did kind of spice things up a little bit by adding these pierced brick details on the facade. I'm using a lot of technical terms, but pierced bricks are really popular decorative ornaments in mid-century modern architecture, and they do have a function because modernism doesn't like things to be purely decorative. Everything has to be functional, everything has to have a purpose. So other than being aesthetically pleasing to the eye, they also have a little bit of privacy as well, so that's that. I also put some exposed beams on the roof, which is another feature of mid-century modern architecture. The beams are always visible as well, which once again harkens to that ideal of making everything functional and practical. I actually am really happy with how this turned out. I put like a little fenced-in area in front, which I will actually remove later on. I feel like we didn't really need that fenced-in area because it made the front yard look really cramped. So I'll take it out in a little bit. And I'm just also adding in a bunch of little details that kind of just made it interesting overall. The thing I noticed about mid-century modern homes is that a lot of them are just really simple and straightforward homes. Most of them are single stories, even though there are quite a few that are also 2 stories. I haven't seen like a mid-century home that went up to like 3 stories. I really haven't. There's probably some out there, but I haven't really seen anything. I guess it doesn't really make sense if you have all that space, if you own like a suburban plot of land to build like a 3-story home. Like, I don't know, it's quite interesting to see that most mid-century modern homes have this horizontal emphasis, like they're more horizontal than vertical. Even the roofs, a lot of flat roofs, especially in Palm Springs, but this one is a little bit more of a widespread style, I should say, because it's kind of more normal than what you would normally see in Palm Springs. The Palm Springs style, I noticed, is a little bit more bold and a little bit more experimental with bright colors and flat roofs in some cases, or like really bold shapes and stuff like that. So this one is a little bit more of normal side. But speaking of Palm Springs, for those of you guys who are not familiar with Palm Springs, I guess most of you guys are probably familiar with Palm Springs because it is where the world famous Coachella Music Festival takes place. Yeah, but as an architect, I am more familiar with Palm Springs as a place synonymous with mid-century modern. It's just, when you talk about mid-century modernism, it's just Palm Springs. Another characteristic of modernist architecture, including mid-century modern, would be the open floor plan. So you guys can see that majority of the rooms in this home actually share a space. So the dining room, living room, the office, bar, and kitchen are all in the same room. There are some partitions to delineate this. Once again, I'm using such technical terms, but yeah, there are some partitions to kind of indicate which space is supposed to go where, but generally they're in the same zone or in the same space. Another interesting feature of mid-century modern would be the split level. I've seen so many split level homes, atomic split level ranch homes. So I definitely had to have some split leveling going on here. And I guess one last feature that I want to talk about would be the large floor-to-ceiling glass windows, because mid-century modernism really wanted to bring in the outdoors indoors. That's why there were large windows, walls of glass as they would say. So I definitely used a lot of that to bring in the backyard, especially because that's where we have a lot of decorative landscaping. So working on the interior, I went with a couple of popular color schemes that are distinctly vintage and 1950s. The main color scheme that I use is known as the Scandinavian color scheme, I believe. It's where a lot of earth tones and natural tones are used. So there's a lot of like browns and oranges. Orange I feel like is a very vintage color. So yeah, Scandinavian for the living room and the dining room, and I believe for the bedroom as well. Another popular color scheme during the 50s was the pastel colors. And I used that for the kitchen and for the bathroom. So I'm going to be talking more about that later on. Anyway, this build, surprisingly, is actually one of my smaller builds. It only has one bedroom and one bathroom, which compared to the builds that I normally do is really quite small. But nevertheless, it is just as detailed, and I put just as much love and effort into it as in my other larger builds. Once again, I noticed that a lot of mid-century modern homes were just smaller, especially in Palm Springs, because Palm Springs was a city, or was a community, mainly founded as like a place where Hollywood celebrities would have their temporary homes. So that's why a lot of the homes were like really small and weren't really built for family accommodation. Interesting fact, for most of the mid-century era, Palm Springs wasn't really that appreciated of a place. Like, it only got famous, I believe, during the 90s or the 80s. That's really the only time when people began to appreciate the mid-century architecture in Palm Springs. Also, I believe that Palm Springs has like a law that doesn't allow paparazzi to take pictures of celebrities in their homes. I think that's why it became such a popular place for so many of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood. The names like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley and Leonardo DiCaprio, they all had properties in Palm Springs. So for the living room, I just went really retro. I did add this feature wall over here because I felt like it would be good to have like a little bit more diversity when it comes to the walls, but generally I stuck with the Scandinavian color scheme that I decided to go with when I started this. Speaking of when I started this, I love the segue there, but let me tell you guys that when I was building this, I thought that this was gonna be the pack this was gonna be the build where I got to use a lot of the bowling stuff from the bowling stuff pack. And when I was furnishing this, I got really disappointed. I ended up not really using as much bowling stuff as I expected, and that's mainly because so many of the bowling stuff was just like so exaggerated and goofy, and just like if you guys can see the dining chairs, like they have like neon legs. The legs are neon red. Like, why? That's what I was missing from the mid-century modern furniture that came with bowling stuff. It's just the sophistication and the elegance, and it's not really the design of the furniture itself. It's more of like the color options. They're just so exaggerated. They're great if you want to build like a parody of a mid-century modern home. They're great for like more goofy and cartoony looking builds, but not if you're going for realism. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, I did go for a more authentic and realistic look. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out there for any one of you guys who are interested. But working on the kitchen, this is where I used kind of a pastel color scheme. I'm gonna say it's pastel, even though the green on the counters is quite rich and dark to be pastel. But you guys can see that I use a lot of plastic furniture, and that is another trademark of mid-century modernism, because there were a lot of technologies that happened after the Second World War that enabled mass production of a lot of materials, and a lot of those materials ended up being used in homes because they were more affordable. So materials like glass, steel, and plastics were used all over the place. So that's what you guys are seeing right now. I also noticed that a lot of the kitchens matched. Like every single item in like the kitchen was like the same color. So that's what I was going for in this build as well. And I was like, you know what? Since we have the laundry stuff, we might as well throw in like a washing machine and a dryer as well. Yeah, those are actually functional, even though they look really cramped next to the fridge. They actually work as well. If you guys are bothered by that, I know that some people aren't really a fan of having to do laundry in the kitchen. You can move it in the garage. There is a shelf for laundry in the garage as well. But you guys probably just saw me put a ceiling detail on the living room / dining room area. I just felt like that area needed a little bit more detail to spice things up a little bit. So that's what I did. And I threw in this nice little bar area, which looked very vintage for me. I don't know, it just looked like really Mad Men. Like, yeah, Mad About Men. Mad Men? I don't know. I haven't watched it. I just came across it while researching, like, TV shows and movies set in the 50s. And I ended up watching Down with Love. And they didn't really have a lot of mid-century modern architecture in that movie, even though it was so much fun to watch. Anyway, this area right here is kind of like the skill building area, with a desk for writing, of course, because they didn't have computers at the time, or most homes didn't have computers, and also an easel and a nice little sitting area with some very vintagey looking chairs that came with city living. I really like those chairs. And I also had to throw in a jukebox as well, just to give off that nice retro vibe. I also really like the detail of having that broom and garbage can over there in the corner. It just made everything look so realistic. So for the master bed, well, I call it master, it's the only bedroom in the house. I wanted to make it green at first, so I knew that I wanted to have like a really abstract looking rug. I feel like I ditched the rug in the end though. Yeah, I ditched the rug and changed it with a carpet instead, which also looked really modern for me. But in terms of the color scheme, I think this is still considered Scandinavian because it is like natural tones. Oh, look at that carpet. I've never seen that carpet look so well in a build. Another thing that I forgot to mention in this build is the importance of lighting. I don't know what this pause is about. Anyway, yeah, for some reason I had that weird pause, which I forgot to edit. Anyway, not a big deal, but the importance of lighting. Let's try not to get sidetracked. Okay, I'm getting more sidetracked. But I noticed that in a lot of retro homes, the lighting tends to be really dim. And I think that's because they used mostly like iridescent bulbs, I think. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm getting this all wrong. I'm sure it's iridescent because I know what fluorescent is and LED. I should really know more about this because I'm an architect. But anyway, interiors tend to be really dark, so I just put like a lighting fixtures strategically to just give off that nostalgic effect, you know? Like I remember going to my grandparents' home and the colors were really rich, but it was also really dim inside, so yeah. I really like that detail of the abstract paintings on the headboard. I only had space for 3 of them, so I threw the other one outside in the hallway. I thought that was a really nice, nifty location for it. And you guys will also see me throw in a clock over here as well because I just feel like clocks just make everything look so realistic. Clocks don't really have that much of a use in game, you know, but I don't see what kind of use they would have. But yeah, they're great. I think I put the clock on top of the dresser actually. See, you guys see, like, I really like the combination of colors in this room. That chair that came with bowling stuff is one of my favorite items from that pack because it just has versatile, you know, color swatches, which is great. For the toilet, I just went really pastel and really basic, to be honest. I didn't want to make things too overly decorated because sometimes things don't work when you use the move objects cheat too much, so I just went for like matching colors in all of the fixtures. So that is that. Anyway, we're back working on the outside and you guys just saw me delete like the fenced-in area over there. As much as I liked it, I feel like it really wasn't necessary in this build because we don't really have that big of a lot, so I didn't like it blocking away too much space in front. So yeah, right here we're doing like this landscaping area and like a curved driveway. Another aspect of mid-century modern architecture would be the garage. Almost all homes had garages because that was a time in history where people started to really see the importance of having cars for personal use, which would be quite a practical thing because when you live in the suburbs, you would need to have a car in order to get anywhere. Anyway, I'm making good use of some plants that came with Jungle Adventure, which is amazing. I love the plants that come with Jungle Adventure. Like, one of my friends who also does YouTube calls Jungle Adventure the plant pack because like the best features are just the plants. I mean, somebody probably would disagree, but in my opinion, it's one of the packs that came with just really, really good plant options, and I'm just giving EA applause for that. Oh yeah, I also had to throw in like some flamingos. That just gave me so much nostalgia. I love that little flamingo detail. Anyway, I decided to switch out one of the palm trees for that Brazil tree. I'm scratching my head. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. Ooh, anyway, I have a really fun story I want to tell you guys. But yeah, anyway, I switched out that one of that palm tree for that Brazil tree. But anyway, back to the interesting story. This is actually my second time recording this commentary. The first time I recorded this, I just wasn't really happy. I feel like it was really tense. You know, sometimes I get really tense when I'm doing recording, and sound like I'm shouting at the microphone, and I wasn't really talking about the build that much. I don't know. I really wanted to have a good balance of talking about the build, talking about myself, #vain, talking about my personal life and what I've been up to, and talking about like actual interesting, knowledgeable stuff about mid-century modernism. So I've talked most about that in this video. The only thing I wasn't able to talk a lot about would be myself, but I got a haircut today. The first time I did a recording was last night. Wasn't really happy with it, so I was like, you know what, let's sleep on it and see if we can do a better job at it tomorrow. So there wasn't really anything wrong with it. I was just not really 100%. So I got a haircut, got some sleep, and here we are right now. Anyway, I think this video is pretty much coming to an end, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up right here, okay guys? So once again, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to support me by subscribing and also sharing the video as well, because you guys do not know how much that helps me out. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.